What's going on, everybody? It's Gone Turbo here. This is Skyrim Special Edition on Xbox One, and in this video I wanted to share with you a setup that I have created that provides a very fantasy-like look to Skyrim with an ENB type of feel or look to the game as well. Now, I know you all know that we don't have ENBs on Xbox, but there are some weather mods that do say that they give an ENB-like effect. Mythical Ages is one of them. Vivid Weathers is another. And I do agree that these two mods, Vivid Weathers and Mythical Ages, do provide an ENB type of look. And I would say that Mythical Ages probably does the best job at providing a look that can be very similar to what we sometimes see on PC setups. So in this video, I wanted to share with you a more extreme kind of fantasy look to your game that is very ENB-like. So in the load order here, I have Mythical Ages, followed by True Storms, and then one of the Desmera patches. Now this one is the version that keeps all of the original stormy aesthetics from Mythical Ages with the addition of True Storm's rainy snow effects and audio. So this one's a little bit more dark and ominous. So I have that here. Minty's Lightning, the patch for that, Mythical Ages Darker Nights, and just also in terms of just visuals here, Darker Distant LOD, Smooth Sky Mesh, Obsidian Mountain Fog, and Wonders of Weather, which is really actually cool. This just simply adds rain splash effects to surfaces when it's raining, some ambient rain sound effects inside, some shooting stars and rainbows and meteor showers during certain types of scenarios and certain times of the quote-unquote month or year. But I've seen some shooting stars, which is really, really cool. So just another little thing there to note. I also have further in the load order, as always, display enhancements, which will come in handy here in this setup, and also dynamically disable eye adaptation and bloom. And I have to mention this mod because I mention it in every other video, and it does play a role here in this setup. So what we have here are those mods in that load order, and I wanted to share with you the settings for this because it's very important how I have this set up. And again, this is going to give a saturated fantasy look to the game with, and in my opinion, the most ENB-like effect that we can find on Xbox. Again, I would argue that Mythical Ages does give the best ENB kind of look to the game. The mod really draws out the graphics and the details and the textures, and the lighting around objects can just look absolutely gorgeous. Other weather mods and lighting mods can have just totally can make the game totally different in so many ways. Some more harsh than others. If you've seen any of my other videos, like I like Obsidian Weathers and Seasons, that can give a more realistic, harsh kind of look, and even make the graphics a little bit more grainy. Mythical Ages will soften the graphics, but that's the point. It's meant to be more fantasy-like. So here's what I have for setup with this load order and with these mods in this way. Under powers, you have Mythical Ages presets, and when you pull this up in this setup, I have chosen fantasy. Recently, I've been trying to make a more realistic, this is just a side note, a more realistic bleak look to the game, and I was playing with bleak and it really does give obviously a desaturated look to the game. I was trying to reduce some of the blue tint, the blue palette that Mythical Ages has, and you can do that by bleaking out the game and just increasing saturation a little bit, but that might be for another video. So I choose fantasy here, and you're going to get a colorful and pretty bloomed out effect. So what bloom does is in the really around objects, you're going to get a hazy kind of dreamy look is the way I like to describe it. And one way to tell that it's working or not is through the mod Disable Eye Adaptation and Bloom. And with that, you get 2 pieces of paper in your book inventory. Now, if you don't have that mod, then you're not gonna be able to change having bloom or not, or eye adaptation. That's what this does. So if you don't have this mod, any weather mod that provides bloom, you're gonna have it. And any weather mod that, well, toggle eye adaptation is a little bit different. So if I toggle bloom off, you're gonna see how in the background everything's kind of changed. You lose the bloom. Things are more sharp and more defined, but things also are a little bit more muted. I have found. So whoops. So if we go back to books, you're just gonna kind of see in the background everything kind of burst with some of that misty, foggy kind of. There you go. See that? Kind of dreamy look, kind of cloudy look. And I have found with the bloom on with Mythical Ages, you will get more of a colorful look to things, especially during the sunrises and sunsets, and even just the sunbursts like this. You will see that when I take it off, it reduces some of that sunburst. Oh, I keep hitting that button. So, you know, it doesn't look bad either way, but again, in this video, I'm trying to show you this fantasy-like setup. All right, so that's one thing you're gonna make sure that you have, is if you have eye adaptation and bloom, that bloom is on. Eye adaptation, what this does is when you go into a darker area, it will adjust the brightness and darkness a little bit, so things adjust. With this enabled, when you go into a darker area, it will remain quite dark. The shadows will be pretty black. This is just a personal preference, like you can see in the shadows here, especially as the sun goes down, I guess. This will stay pretty dark, and sometimes going into those areas, it's harder to see. So I disable this, and it just balances out some of the transition from light to dark. All right, the next most important thing is display enhancements. So with this setup, and what you see now is already in place, but I'll just mention that cinematic options, I have actually increased saturation a little bit more than just the fantasy setting. I've increased saturation twice. I've increased contrast twice. And I've increased red tint twice and green tint once. Now you think, man, that's a lot of color, but this is, again, a more fantasy kind of look. And one thing I've tried to do is to reduce some of the blue look that Mythical Ages provides. It's one thing that turns me off about Mythical Ages is in the snowy weathers, things can get pretty blue and purple in those areas, and it is less realistic, but I know that's the whole point of Mythical Ages, is to be a little bit more fantasy-like, so you're obviously going to get some different kinds of colors. So that's just kind of what you get. I've gone through snowy weathers, obviously the forest, we'll head over to that in just a moment, and the rift as well. You will get, yeah, you can see how colorful and beautiful this is with these settings. So quite saturated, bloomed out, and this is what you get. But you get just that ENB kind of look to all the objects in the game. So this is pretty extreme here at 7:20 at night, and I will cheat a little bit and adjust some of the weather and time of day just so you can see. But where was I going with that? I can't remember what I was talking about. So the blue effect, I try to reduce a little bit, but you just really can't with Mythical Ages. So let's just adjust some of the weathers, even though it kind of goes against some of what I like to do when I make these videos, is to use weather adjustments. But you'll still get some you'll still obviously get all of the beautiful weather effects that Mythical Ages provides. And I was trying to get an example of the splashes from Wonders of Weather. All right, you can see it. Okay, you can see it on the rock here. Like, you gotta look quick because it's not often, but you can see the splashes happen. That's Wonders of Weather happening. Really, really cool effect. Let's see if we can find it in other places. You can see it on the tent here. That's really, really neat. Oh, that's one of those eggs. All right, we're gonna advance time instead of changing the weather here. Again, true storms with the patch that keeps all of the Mythical Ages in place, but just changes the texture of the rain and snow. Let's go ahead a little bit further. All right. One thing also about Mythical Ages, in my opinion, is that the middle of the day on a clear day, it's not very bright. So you can see here, my character's clothes are very colorful, and there's a lot of bloom. The one thing about bloom that is actually kind of neat is that it does help with that far distant level of detail, or the LOD. Some mods like Obsidian Weathers will kind of mask the further distance with clouds and fog. But the bloom also does help with that. You don't necessarily see some of that ugly detail in some of those, with some of this. So this is technically, with these settings, middle of the day, sunny and clear. And it's still, still a little misty looking. But it is colorful. It is saturated. But if you're looking for a more fantasy kind of look, and to take some amazing screenshots as well, you'll see in this video I'll have some screenshots at the end with just some of the way that this game looks. I have vanilla grass, dense vanilla grass with dense grass mod, unique grasses as well. So no grass overhaul with this setup right now that you're seeing. I actually like vanilla grass. I think it's fine. I think it's good. I think it's just as well textured as some of the other grass overhauls out there. Let's head to the Rift just to see what that looks like. One of the things that I base this on is testing this and setting this up in the Rift. One of the things that when I'm playing around with some of these weather mods and visiting some of the different environments, is to see like what it looks like. So obviously we have snowy areas that different lighting mods will affect the way the snow looks. Obviously the forested areas in the fall creeks with the green pines. And then if you go to the Rift and you have trees that just don't look good, and that could technically be, I don't want to say a buzzkill, but you could definitely have a look to the trees that might not be as good as some of the other areas. So I wanted to make sure that with this fantasy kind of setup, that this forest looked nice, and that the trees were nice and vibrant. Because with Mythical Ages, and even some other weather mods that make things look more natural, these leaves can tend to just look brown and kind of washed out. I believe there's a dragon around here, yeah. I'm not sure he's going to come after me. We'll see. So, you can still see some of that kind of blue haze, that blue tint, but you do get nice colorful trees, nice colorful foliage. And a really saturated look. The sunsets and the sunrises with this setup, absolutely beautiful. And just the way, again, objects are lit up, the shadows, the contrast between bright and light and dark. Kind of like here. So, having this stone, this rock in the shadows, and the backs of these trees in the shadow versus the sunlight that's coming through the trees here. Just kind of walking through and seeing the light and how the shadows bounce off the character, surround the character. It kind of makes me wonder if that's what Skyrim Special Edition was supposed to be like. With just the way the light moves around the objects. Another thing to note is that I have the Darker Nights Mythical Ages mod in this load order, and I found that with this fantasy-like setup, the interiors look fine. The some of the fireplaces, some of the exterior lighting, this isn't too bad. I'm not sure of the technicality of this, but I find that some exterior lighting is more orange. Who's that trotting over my bridge? It is I. Some of the exterior lighting, and this isn't showing me a good example, can be more orange than others. I can't find a good example. In Whiterun, like the forge is pretty orange compared to some other sources of light. Not a lot of light here. All right, let's head finally up to the snowy region of Dawnstar. This character doesn't look as saturated as I've seen it before in this menu. Huh. That is interesting. That is interesting. Oh well. Alright, let's check this out. So, I always check snowy weathers or snowy regions when I'm playing around with weather and lighting, because some will completely turn your snow to just completely bright white. It does not look good. Obviously, snowy region, very bloomed out with this load order, with this setup. But again, this is meant to be a fantasy kind of setup. So let's go to the middle of the day and see what happens here. So nice and bright and sunny, and you get a chance to see what it looks like. And if we were to just kind of simply cheat, change some weather a little bit, you're gonna get a lot of variation though, just kind of like playing normally. Different fog variations will happen. Sometimes it's more purple like this. Sometimes it's not. So I have found in playing and testing this that there's a lot of beautiful variety that you will find with this setup, with this load order. Again, a lot of my videos I am disabling bloom to create a more realistic kind of look, or a more, I don't know, a more rustic natural kind of look. But this is a little bit, this is, I don't want to say complete opposite, but definitely opposite of what I have been, you know, kind of trying to build with my Skyrim load order. Pardon the background noise. Fantasy-based, saturated, and more bloomed out. Hey, look, we have a drunk soldier. Are you drunk, soldier? Are you drunk, soldier? It's 6 o'clock in the morning. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. But you will get more beautiful visuals with this load order. Probably the best I've been able to create, and a more fantasy kind of look to the game. So I'm going to end here. After this little talk, I will have all kinds of screenshots so you can see some of the differences, and I hope you enjoy. Give this a shot if you want. Anyway, thanks for watching. This has been Gone Turbo. I'll talk to you again soon.